Here we go.
Have any of you ever had a conversation with someone that you're having a budding friendship with about past relationships? I promise this is relevant, but yeah, most definitely. That's always come up. I've had it recently with my current roommate. Her name's Rachel, and we were talking about her past relationship before she transferred here along with me to Pepperdine. She went to Colorado Springs University, and there she had a relationship with a guy who she knew she had to get out of it. She actually was living with him, had a dog with him, had both of their names on the lease, and the stress of thinking, I need to get out of here took her out of control. And so she found the only thing that she could control, and that was food. She started to starve herself. And even after she broke up with this boyfriend, she continued to do it because she would look at herself in the mirror and say, wow, I look skinnier. Wow, I look better. And it only took when a coworker came up to her and gave her a $75 gift card to King Super that she knew she had an eating disorder. So I will be talking about eating disorders, and throughout this presentation, I hope to bring you awareness and factual information on specific types of eating disorders and what we can do as a community to make a change on this specific campus. So I will be going over two defining terms, which are two specific types of eating disorders and how they affect the body, how this directly correlates with college campuses, and what we can do to make a change. So the first step, I will be defining anorexia nervosa. And anorexia nervosa is, by definition, that we are given from Walsh and Dublin here, is an obsession of weight loss to the point where the patient starves themselves. And this actually depletes the entire body of nutrition, as well as fat, muscle, and even lessens bone density. This actually correlates with mental health disorders. Usually it is born from mental health disorders, but also can circle back and cause even more. One in specific is obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD. And this actually correlates that eating disorders and mental health disorders are not exactly mutually exclusive. In an article written by an anonymous woman, we give her a pen name of Amy, says that anorexia is like you're running down a hill and all of this wind is going through your hair and it's exciting, but all of a sudden you're going too fast and start to spiral out of control. You fall and then you're just sitting on the ground, shocked with all these bruises. The next term I'll go over is bulimia nervosa, and bulimia nervosa is defined again by Walsh and Devlin that when a person is obsessed with weight loss to the point where they are binging food and then purging it, aka vomiting, expelling all the food out of the system. This is similar to anorexia nervosa and is actually born through it. It's actually the next step of this deadly disease. They have very similar effects to the body. Unfortunately, as statistics show, bulimia is the more deadly eating disorder. This chart that was given to us by Walsh and Devlin actually emphasizes the cycle that people go through when suffering with bulimia. And it actually shows that not only are there biological changes, but there are also emotional and psychological changes throughout the body, hormonal imbalances, and even irregular periods for females. For the outcomes of eating disorders, I will be referring to Steinhaus's study on the outcomes of eating disorders. And it has shown that even though this is a curable disease, there are still mortality rates that need to be put into effect. One of them, for anorexia nervosa, there's a 5% mortality rate. Even though that seems like a good chance, there are still 20% of people who don't make full recovery and actually develop a chronic case of anorexia. For bulimia nervosa, there is a 48% recovery rate. However, there are more psychological and social effects that happen with this disorder. There is most likely not going to be any personal relationships or sexual relationships that are bonded with other people who are suffering through bulimia. Now, one thing that we need to take into account with eating disorders is that they are born and thrive in high-stress situations. I can't think of a better example than a college campus. So, and to put that into perspective, let's just think of a college, maybe this one. For example, there was a study that was taken into effect by Fitzsimmons, and she screened a college campus and found that 18% of people in the undergraduate population were positive for eating disorders, and 46 had high risk onset for an eating disorder. This is a problem, and it's something that we aren't being able to focus on today. This is an article by Lois Harder that went to Oakland University, and she says, looking back, I wish someone would have reached out and told me they cared and helped me get the support I needed. I may not have listened, but I would have known that I was not alone in my fight. Something that we also tend to overlook about eating disorders is that men are also affected. The stigma behind that men are not affected by these eating disorders is something that we need to erase immediately. In a study shown by Oliver Diaz, he found that not only are there similarities between men and women with eating disorders, there is a different variation for men. It is more about gaining muscle rather than losing weight. However, that means over-exercising and not eating enough of the proper nutrients that would gain that muscle. Also, something we need to take into account is the pandemic. Unfortunately, people were not able to go to classes and were left alone with their thoughts. And this rose statistics on relapses in both anorexia and bulimia. This is Peyton. She was interviewed for an article for the LA Times, and she talks about her story of relapsing into anorexia nervosa. When the pandemic hit, she went on to online school, but even after being accepted into Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee, she was left alone with only her thoughts, and they weren't very nice to her. She went into treatment in June of this year and relapsed again in September, but now she's doing great and is able to spread awareness on her story and give factual information on the disease that took control of her life. Now, you may be asking, what can we do specifically as a community and on Pepperdine University campus? Well, I don't know if you know this, but we actually have a club here on campus that deals with body positivity and eating disorder information, and they are called Nourish. Nourish is not a very well-known club on campus, and I believe that is a huge problem. Something that we should do as a collective is to raise a body positive campaign and have it spread all over campus. Helping Nourish, who actually have a workshop coming up on December 1st at 6 p.m. It's called Intuitive Eating. We can work with them to bring in a campaign for body positivity, as well as posters and pamphlets, as well as flyers that bring in factual information about these two specific diseases and how they can get outreach help and treatment. In conclusion, to put into review, anorexia and bulimia are still a major problem in our society, and not just for women, but also with men. Eating disorders thrive in stressful situations, and what better example than a college campus? The pandemic has made it worse, and relapses are off the charts now, and it feels like there is no hope. However, I hope that you take this information that I have given to you and you go out and make a change, because one day you may have to use it in order to save someone's life. Thank you.